Brian with ScreenFiles.com with review. The movie I'm looking at today is Spider-Man Homecoming, and it's pretty good. What's best about it is that it evokes the Spider-Man that I grew up with. The Spider-Man that was exemplified in the 1960 cartoon with the psychedelic backgrounds, the odd music. Not that that happens in Spider-Man Homecoming, mind you, but it exemplifies that feel, which is really important, especially since the last movies, the two prior movies done by Sam Raimi and the two movies done by Mark Webb, there's a tonal heaviness about them. The former two, done by Sam Raimi, are particularly good. Spider-Man 1, Spider-Man 2. Spider-Man 3, also by Sam Raimi, not so much. But that's more due to the interference, as far as I can tell, Javier Rad, more so than Sam Raimi. In any case, Spider-Man Homecoming is such a welcome breath of fresh air. And it follows a typical Marvel formula, which means that there's action, there's humor, there's heart. It's a movie that's open to not only adults. And this was the biggest problem, one of the biggest problems with the DCEU, from my perspective. It's that they were making these characters into characters for adults. Comic books were originally made for children. They still are. Now, there are graphic novels like The Watchmen, V for Vendetta, which skew older. I get that. But generally speaking, comics were made for young people, children, teenagers, and so on. And Marvel doesn't forget that. They make different types of movies, but they still remember that they should be accessible to virtually anyone who wants to see an entertaining, fun, action-packed movie. This is what the DCEU is learning. But back to Spider-Man Homecoming. And this is an aside, I kind of wonder if it was shot on film. Because at certain points, I saw a lot of grain, which is really odd. And I don't think, well, you could probably add grain digitally, but why would you want to? There are certain scenes, particularly close-ups and night scenes, where you see a lot of grain, which is interesting. But that's an aside, just an interesting thing I noticed. What surprised me also, though, is that the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton as Adrian Toomes, was a decidedly creepy character. Visually, the Vulture, the helmet, the green eyes, and so on, was kind of scary. And the way his wings moved and responded to things, kind of scary, kind of creepy. Michael Keaton, minus the helmet and the wings. At times, kind of scary, kind of creepy. So that was interesting, I thought. A bit of contrast there. It wasn't overdone by any means, but a little scary. Little kids might be a little nervous around this Vulture. Not a visually friendly character, which worked for the character, but interesting. And another thing I thought was interesting was that there are hints of the Sinister Six in this movie as well. It revolved around Vulture. There is a cameo of sorts for the person who would be the Scorpion. So they're setting that up, which is interesting because it leads me to the question, if Marvel's laying the groundwork for a Sinister Six, that's supposed to be part of Sony's extended Marvel Universe movies. So I didn't quite know what to make of that. Hopefully, and this is just speculation on my part, I have no clue, but hopefully it's an indicator that maybe Sony is willing to give Marvel a little more leeway in terms of the amount of movies that involve Spider-Man. So Tom Holland is contracted to appear in 3 Marvel Studios movies and 2 for Sony, as far as I'm aware. So the first movie for Marvel Studios was Captain America Civil War, followed by a movie for Sony, which is Spider-Man Homecoming. It was produced by Marvel Studios, though it's a Sony movie, and they let you know that huge Sony logo at the opening of the movie. Then you have a Marvel movie, Infinity War, another Marvel movie, the sequel to Avengers Infinity War, and a sequel to Spider-Man Homecoming. Which leads to the question, I don't know what Tom Holland's contract entails for Sony Pictures, in that so far he would have done two. Look at Homecoming, Spider-Man Homecoming, and its sequel. Total of 5 movies, though. 3 of them for Marvel Studios, 2 for Sony Pictures. So I don't know how his contract works in terms of Sony output. If he'll even appear in another Spider-Man movie after Homecoming. I mean, imagine if it's as successful as the original Spider-Man Homecoming, then it's probably likely. But that whole contract Sony has with Marvel is very odd, and I don't even claim to understand it, really. So, long and short of it is, Spider-Man Homecoming is fun, it's action-packed, it's clever, it's witty, it's very John Hughes, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Pretty in Pink, The Breakfast Club, and it's a good time. It takes the Marvel Universe to places where we haven't quite seen it before. And that goes to what Kevin Feige always said, is that he makes many types of movies. High school comedies, high school action comedies, if you will. Political thrillers, and so on, with superheroes. That's Marvel's formula for success, and so far it's coming up gold. This is Brian from ScreenFiles.com. Peace.